Hey folks, so today we're reviewing an Amazon Basics space heater. You see it says Amazon Basics. Let's see what our specs are. I recall this was a 500. So this is a 500 watt mini heater. That's about the size. And then we have a Phillips screwdriver here. We can compare the size. This is small. I've had this for years and they actually still sell it. It has an emergency on-off switch. So when you set it down, if it falls over, it turns off. It has a rear switch. The reason why I got this was I was working in an office that during the winter, it was cold in there. And they said you technically were not allowed to have a space heater. Anybody that's brought maybe a larger space heater into work knows that if you plug it in and somebody goes in the break room and turns the microwave on, a breaker trips, and then they're trying to figure out why, and suddenly you're busted because you have a space heater. Or, you know, the printer kicks on and then a breaker trips. But at 500 watts, this is low power enough that it won't do things like that, unlike, you know, like something that's 750, 1,000 watts. So it is small. The other reason why I got it, for a while I had it sitting right on my desk, like right by the edge of my computer monitor, because it looks like a speaker. People kind of don't pay much attention to it because it has that speaker look to it. And, you know, it has one of those ceramic type elements or inside there. We're going to open it in a minute, but and it has a little fan in the back. I've had this a long time. I want to say I've had it maybe going on 6 years now. Did it fail? Yes, it did, but we're going to cover that because its failure point is going to happen in probably any of these smaller, low-cost electric heaters. And taking a few moments to learn how to service it, if you haven't done anything like that or you don't know how to do it, I think anybody can do it. So, yeah, it's not real loud either. It's kind of quiet. It's nice. I had it on my desk. I moved it under my desk, kind of keep my feet warm. It heats up the whole area under your desk, so you can feel the warmth kind of radiate up. So it was a nice addition to my desk area, and no one ever knew it. If I got called out on this, I tell you, my next step, and I'll link to a product down below. I was actually going to get one of those heater light bulbs that you use in the amphibian type tank. Like if you have a pet lizard or gecko or something, they have a light bulb that's like 100 watts. I think it might even be 200 or 300. And it's an incandescent bulb that puts out heat, but it's all black, so that it doesn't emit any light, but still emits the heat. I was going to put one of those under my desk. It's funny how they can complain about the electricity usage of a space heater, but anybody that worked in office in 2020 and we were all working from home, if you had to venture in the office, it was amazing how they could cool or heat an entire empty office building nonstop with nobody in it, yet they complain about a little tiny space heater. Anyhow, I digress. So at some point in time, your space heater is going to need service, no matter what brand or kind it is. This being a very simple space heater, this is a good segue into that. So you're going to need, for this particular one, you need a Phillips screwdriver. Now, make sure it is unplugged. Whenever I work on an electrical item, I gather the entire cord in my hand all the way up to the outlet plug and make sure that I have it in my hand, that it is actually unplugged. Never assume it's unplugged if you can't see the end of the cord, okay? So we're gonna take these screws out. And we're just gonna pop the back off. I did this once, but it's been a while. Now, this can be scary if you've never worked on anything before. There's a lot of wires, and I mean, there's nothing in here if it's unplugged that's going to hurt you. Just make sure it's cooled down. There's a little controller thing in there, which is neat. I think it's a power thing for the fan. All right, so what do you want? So what do you need? So obviously you need a Phillips screwdriver. An old toothbrush would be nice, maybe a little brush like that. We're going to need some oil. This is Lock lubricant with Teflon. I use this for a lot of stuff, and I'll have a link down in the description for this too. This is nice to have on hand, not only for locks, but all kinds of, this is like the modern day 3-in-1 oil that your parents might have always had sitting on the shelf somewhere because you never knew when you needed it. So yeah, all this dust bunnies and everything that's all collected in here. Just take your brush, clean that out of here. You don't want this stuff clogging up your heater element, because that's what eventually it's going to decrease the efficiency of your heater element. So get that dust out of here. You can see we got quite a bit going on there, especially if it's set under a desk with all the dust and everything. Okay, so the next problem you may have, your fan speed may slow down. Okay, you may notice that. These are like computer type fans. And any of you computer guys know, yeah, eventually these fans can start making noises. They can start doing funny things and all of that. The screws I want to take out are these guys. They're down in here. I think I see on this particular design, I believe I see 3 of them. So we're going to take these screws out. You might think it's odd that I do a review of something and I talk about how it failed and how to fix it. But some of these things, I mean, part of the thing, you know, I want viewers of my channel to do is save money. One of the ways you save money is stop spending it. If you can fix or repurpose, let's say you go to the local thrift store that you have a Goodwill store or something like that, Salvation Army store, and you wander around and you see one of these sitting on the shelf, you're like, oh, there's a little heater and it's only a couple dollars, you know, and you grab it and you take it home. Well, open it up and clean it up before you even use it, you know. That's a good idea. So now the fan and the heater element lift out as one unit. So you can see this is the back of the heater unit. These are the power leads connecting to it. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about that. Actually, I didn't have to pull all of that out, but you may want to clean in here if you see a lot of dirt. And so you may want to brush that off so it doesn't hurt to get in there. You're not going to hurt anything. Just be careful you don't damage any of the leads. I wouldn't even pull these off. You shouldn't have to unhook any of these wires. We do have a little thermal switch in here, and we're going to have to make sure that we get that back where it's supposed to go. We'll worry about that when the time comes. Actually, it goes inside here. So I did want to take these screws out. It's been a long time since I have done this. I've only had to do this once. There's really nothing wrong with it right now, but I'm doing it just for the sake of making a video for you guys so that you can watch what I'm doing, because I tell you what, YouTube's a wonderful thing. I had an air fryer that bit the dust, and thanks to YouTube, I figured out how it came apart and how to fix it, and there was a little thermal element. It was a few dollars, again, on Amazon. Bought the little thermal varistor temperature sensors and put the new one in there, and voila, it works again, you know. And so, and that was a big double bin, I think it was 8-quart air fryer that I was just going to have to toss and buy another one. And so I was able to get in there, and I took that. Ooh, look at that. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is why you want to get in here. So we're going to get the dust bunnies all off of the back of the fan, clean that out of there. This might be one of those times that I just speed up the video because you don't want to watch me do all of this. Get the point. And, you know, I'm doing this, there's a lot of people that haven't done stuff like this, you know. Maybe you haven't worked with tools, you haven't worked with electrical things. So, you know, that's kind of my goal, to help you save your dollars, you know. If you bought one of these, don't throw it in the trash, you know. Don't have to spend another one. And, you know, some basic maintenance that, you know, doesn't hurt. I mean, I think with my grandparents back in the day, like I was talking about 3-in-1 oil, well, grandparents, my grandparents, I think, grew up during the Depression when everybody had to save everything and you never threw anything out. I know my grandfather was one of those guys that had that coffee can full of screws. If you know what I'm talking about, or had a similar thing where you had a relative or somebody from that era, you know, leave a comment below, you know, share some of the frugal things that they might have done to save some dollars. Boy, that is a lot of dust. And so you'll notice the air is going to flow better through this. It's going to heat better because you cleared all this stuff out so that the air can travel through here. If you have compressed air, either in a can or an air compressor, or you know somebody that has one, you certainly would benefit to take it out to a garage or somewhere and just blow it all out. But I don't have that here right now, so we're just going to make do with what we got. Do a little tap on that. Let our vacuum cleaner get that off the floor. Later. I know I could get yelled at for, why are you throwing all that on the floor, you know? No, it's just dust. It came off the floor to start with. What's dust and Lord knows what else. Yeah, so that's simple. We got all the dust out. You want to note that that sticker faced towards the heating element. And it wouldn't hurt to take some pictures of this because I'm probably going to have to finagle this back in there and make sure which direction the wires and everything are going so everything seats back in there. But this is the area I wanted to touch on. This is where you're going to save your money. This little sticker here covers the tiny, see that little cap that came off there? Tiny little bearing inside there. And these love to dry out with the factory lubrications they use, because I doubt they're using Teflon lubricant here, because if you're a fan manufacturer, do you want your fan to last forever? No, you want to design failure in so somebody will get another one. And a little tiny drop of this oil inside there, you can just kind of fill that up a little bit. Make sure that plastic cap goes back on and just stick that back on there. And that's it. Now you've lubed that up. It'll work its way in there. And you're good to go. And remember, you know, for airflow direction, you want to make sure that goes back on. You want to kind of visualize. Like I said, I knew this thermal sensor had to go back where it came from. So that's going to actually just slide right there. This is going to go down in there. We'll see if we can get it all worked back together. Just take your time. See what works best. Maybe if I get this lined up first, then I can get the thermal switch in place. So that's going to sit like that right there. But I need to get the thermal switch in, so this is going to be the challenge that we have today. So get that in there. Maybe hold it with my thumb. Can we get the screw areas lined back up? Yes. Okay, so we have that in place. Hold that. Remember, it was the black screws. So we'll get, and luckily they're the same all the way around. And just snug. You don't need to crank that down with a bunch of force. Look at your circuit board, your wires, make sure nothing's not where it's not supposed to be. And like I was saying, depending on how dusty and dirty your area is going to be what determines how often you're going to have to take this apart and clean it. Because it's one of those things that just depends on your situation. And nice and snug, we don't want it rattling. And then, like I said, the sticker went down because the airflow goes through, is blowing through that way. So that sits back on there. And you're going to pay more for, you could pay more for a small heater like this and not necessarily get better quality. I mean, there's only so much of these materials to go around, and a lot of the designs, you know, you see different, I've seen some heaters, they're the same heater, they just have a different name, you know. Make sure you don't pinch your wires either when you're tightening stuff down. And, you know, just just some simple maintenance can get you a lot of use. Like I said, 6 years. I think it was within the first year I started hearing the fan slow down. It wasn't as fast as it was, so it wasn't moving as much air. I think if you have it under a desk, especially if you have pets in the house, you know, the pet hair and everything's going to get into it. It's just going to clog it up and cause it to overheat. Either won't heat adequately, or it's going to slow down and it's going to overheat, because the fan's got to stay on to keep that heating element cool enough, or else the heating element's going to overheat. So we have that. And now we want to get the cover back on. And I'm getting some resistance. So something's hitting somewhere. So I want to work that out. And I think this is the sort of thing that would drive most people crazy, is just trying to get the stuff back together, getting everything to fit. Something, is there an edge that's got to click into there? I think so. There it is. Yeah. Yep, that's snapped into place. So we're just going to put our screws back. I think where I was going with my thought earlier is any space heater you buy, you could have these problems with. So it pays to have a little bit of knowledge to keep things up and running. One of my favorite YouTube channels to review stuff is Project Farm. I don't know if you haven't seen Project Farm, go check that out. He buys a pile of stuff and puts it through its paces. And he did a space heater review, not ones this small, I don't think. The only thing I am concerned about, it feels like something's hitting in there, but this might be the way it snaps together. So let's make sure it's off. And now we're going to find an outlet and plug it in. And we'll turn it on and check for heat. Make sure we don't have any weird noise, because I thought it was hitting. And there it is. And it puts out a nice warm front of heat. It will get so hot eventually that you can't touch the grill, but around it doesn't get hot, so you have to move it or anything like that. What you would want to watch out for is if you tip it forward, you know, it lands on carpet or something. The other challenge you might have is if you have carpet under your desk, the button may not want to push in. I've been known to set this on a book, because down below here it doesn't get that hot. You can be right up against here and you're fine. Yeah, so one of them, Amazon Basics little space heater, great for the office, great for under your desk, kind of keep the chill off. And like I said, if this doesn't work out for you because it's too conspicuous, look for a heat lamp that's not a light. It's like a blacked out light bulb, and consider sneaking that under your desk to keep you warm, because man, you're sitting at a desk all day, you want to be comfortable, right? Okay, so I hope that helps. And again, link down in the description if you want to pick one of these up. They're still selling them. They're still making them. So if this stopped working, I definitely would buy another one. It didn't cost that much, and I got, like I'm saying, 6 years out of it. So it would be 6 winter seasons. Even when we were working from home during that period, it was just habit. I had this under my table, and as I would work, you know, and it let me kind of turn down the heat in the house, because I was at my desk. I was in my little cozy zone there, and yeah, it worked out. So anyways, thanks for watching.